I'll have to look through. Hang on. I have notes.
Okay.
So Maine has it at the state level. 8 states have jurisdictions that have it. Alaska approved a ballot to establish ranked choice voting. Oh yeah, in March 2021, voters in Burlington, Vermont approved a measure to implement ranked choice voting for city council elections after repealing ranked choice votings for mayoral elections in 2010. So
that may be a question for FairVote National, since I'm quite hyper local focused. I have an idea of what's going on with greater ideas at the top 4, like what they did in Alaska. But I do try to really think about what's going on in Virginia. But there are also examples of, other states that have implemented that, Virginia modeled their legislation after. So
I lived across the river from Vermont and New Hampshire for a few years, and I can tell you Vermont be crazy. Although I love me some Bernie, I do.
Right. That's all I think of Vermont is Bernie.
Love Bernie.
Unfortunately, I haven't traveled up that way yet in my life, and I definitely want to.
You have to go for leaf peepers, but you need to book that in advance, like really far in advance, like a year in advance. And you should go to Quechee, and you should go to Simon Pierce and see the glass blowing, and there's so much to do. It's so much fun.
So it sounds a lot like the county that I live in, Virginia, Rappahannock County. We're like this very well conserved, but kind of hippie underflow, and we have glass blowing and we have leaf peepers, and all the businesses are very seasonal, and we both like love the tourists and also love-hate relationship with the tourists, because we wouldn't survive without them. So
there was one day in the fall when I was in graduate school, and Dartmouth is in this little valley in the mountains, and I looked around, and the weather was crisp and the air smelled like trees, and the trees were yellow and orange and red, like they were on fire. And it was just one of those moments when everything was beautiful and every sense felt perfect. And it was just one of those moments in my life that I could have lived in. It was just, it was really just the beauty of living on earth was overwhelming at that moment. And then I had to go study 12 hours a day again. But for that exact moment, walking between classes, it was fabulous.
Beautiful.
So with that, we're going to dive straight on in. And what I want to take a minute to do first is welcome everyone to Blue Wave Conversations. I am Mary Hayes, and tonight we have our guest, Elizabeth Melsonis from FairVote, Virginia. And we have our current fabulous co-hosts, Jamie Nettig and Vanessa Maddox. And tonight we are going back talking about some of the things that originally started these conversations, which is election politics and all of that great, fun, gritty stuff. But I want to take a minute to just let you know we appreciate you all for staying with us as long as you have. We started this show, back in August, September, October-ish. And we just want to thank you all for tuning in and watching the various different subjects. And if you have anything that you'd like us to discuss in the near future, please feel free to put that in the chat and the comments. And also, while you're with us, just say hi, give us a shout out, give us some likes and loves, throw out your questions, whatever it is. Just let us know that you're out there and help stir up the conversation, okay? That would be fantastic. So tonight we have Elizabeth Melsonis. She's the president and founding board member of FairVote Virginia. She's a native of Ohio. She relocated to Virginia in 2004, and she lives near beautiful Shenandoah National Park. She initially got involved in local level politics and now is a self-labeled rural independent. And she is here to talk about FairVote Virginia. She's been working with local representatives to introduce ranked choice voting in the Virginia General Assembly since a conversation with Delegate Nick Ferretis at the end of 2016. So I am really interested in finding more about this ranked choice voting and what it really is, and what it really could do, the differences and all of that great stuff. So with that, Elizabeth, can can you tell us a little something about, well, not a little bit, but can we have some novice here, so me being one, so Vanessa being an expert, but if you could say something to someone like myself who has never heard of ranked choice voting and what it is. I did watch the video and I did check out the website, but for somebody who didn't do that, can you just give us an understanding of what that is?
Sure. So we do like to start talking about the why implement this reform, rather than the how, because if you start delving into tabulation, then you get a lot of questions and it gets kind of murky, but it really is simple as 1, 2, 3. So your ballot would look like any other ballot, except for you would be able to rank your candidates in the order of preference. So what that does is, for somebody that might want to vote for, a candidate that, maybe the press is saying, oh, they're a long shot. You could vote for that long shot first because you feel like that candidate represents your values. And then you can vote for a second choice that, maybe more likely to be favored. And then even a third or fourth if there's that many in the contest. And after that, it goes into what's known as an instant runoff. So it's kind of like a tournament where you remove the lowest vote getter, and then your second choice, or your next choice, the voter's next choice, gets moved up. And what it eventually comes down to is the winner is required to win with majority. So in our current system, where you just vote for one and you walk away, you can get a result that is called a plurality result. So if you have, like in Virginia right now, both the Republicans and the Democrats have such wide field of candidates for our governor, lieutenant governor, and attorney general in this upcoming November election. So what could happen is, in a primary where you're using plurality voting, you could vote for, just one for each of those offices, and somebody could actually win with only 20% of the vote, which means 80% of the voters preferred another candidate. So you kind of end up with a skewed result, and the candidates only have to appeal to their base. So in that scenario, you might end up with somebody that's like really extreme on either end, because they only needed to get a very small percentage to win the whole election. Whereas where we see in ranked choice voting elections or conventions, the candidates have to appeal to more than just a narrow base, because they're trying to become second and third choice voters. I mean, voters' second or third choices. So they start talking more about the issues, or they start working together to talk about the issues. There's an example, I believe it might have been Maine or Massachusetts, where two candidates for Senate did a commercial together. And they said, hey, vote for me first and her second, or her first and me second. And, one of us will win. And so it has this effect of civilizing elections, talking more about the issues, removing the spoiler effect. So for me, I often, as an independent, I might vote for a Republican, I might vote for a Democrat, or I might vote for a Green or a Libertarian. And what I was so offended by was when somebody would say, you're wasting your vote for voting for that person. And I was like, but my vote is very dear to me. So for you to tell me that it's a waste, like, that is just really offensive. And then I learned about ranked choice voting, and I said, wow, well, that kind of solves that problem. I can vote for who I really feel represents me without having to vote strategically and overthink it. I can just go, I like that candidate. I like that one too. That one's okay. I'll rank that one last, or I won't rank that one at all. And what happens is we'll more likely get a candidate that everybody goes, they're okay. And maybe that's the candidates that we need right now when we have such a divided nation, is the ones that they're okay. They're going to talk about the issues. They might even reach across the aisle and start going for the low hanging fruit where we can actually get to some solutions. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, so if I'm understanding it, so that means with under ranked choice, I can vote for more than one person.
For as many or as few as you want, yes.
Okay. And then at the end of the day, whoever receives the most votes will win that seat or
Yes.
position, whatever.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Okay.
can I ask?
Basically, they have to rise to the top with the majority of the votes.
So do you think, for example, if we had a system like this, some of the more extreme candidates in Congress, for example, Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is like really out there, but I know a lot of people in her district felt like for whatever reason they were obligated to vote for Republicans, and everybody knows how I feel about that at this point, but they felt like there was no other choice. Do you think that ranked choice voting could have resulted in a candidate other than someone who thinks that there are Jewish space lasers, as an example? Or do you, because the other scenario I hear when I listen to this is people could say, I'm just going to go ahead and use my first choice on this crazy person because I don't think anybody else is going to do it. And then inadvertently, we all just thought there was no risk for that. And now we've got Marjorie Taylor Greene as president of the United States.
No, I think you're more likely to get an extreme candidate in our current plurality system, because especially when there's 3 or more candidates, one of those candidates could win with a very small percentage. And we've seen that happen. We've seen that happen in primaries on either side. That's how we ended up with the president we had in 2016.
So where have we seen this work and what have the results been? Because I know some states already have started implementing this. And I think if we were to do this in Virginia, we would want to model it after best practices in places that have already done it. And I know places like Vermont and Maine and Alaska have started to try this out. And this is a significant change in how we vote and how we think about voting. So do we have models to follow? Is there a best practice? Is there a state that we can hold up and say they did this and did it well and we should follow them?
Absolutely. I mean, the legislation that we have in place now in Virginia will allow localities to start implementing ranked choice voting in July of this year. And that legislation was modeled after Utah's legislation. So it was designed in a way by the bill sponsor to make it as palatable as possible to get through our General Assembly, because we're not a ballot initiative state. We can't just get signatures and get something signed into law. We have to get a bill sponsor, talk to all their colleagues and testify and get that bill passed. It was designed with a sunset clause, so it's a trial. It was designed as optional, so localities can opt in if they want. And it was designed with a delayed enactment so that our local and our state election boards could, get ready for it. So I think the bill we have in place already is modeled after great legislation, because it was a very well thought out legislation. We worked with Ranked Choice Voting Resource Center, who is a group of former election officials that are advocating for ranked choice voting. So they know how to implement it. And then they help other legislators and election boards do so. So they were there to help us, the bill sponsor, write the bill and answer questions. Maine is an example. I mean, they're pretty much all offices are done by ranked choice voting now, and they were different because they are a ballot initiative state. They could, I believe, they could get signatures and have it done, but then there was governor veto, and then they had to come back with the people's veto of the governor, and it was popular. It's in place. It's going on, and it removed some people that were getting by with a plurality for years. So I think it's been done in enough localities that we are getting results in what they've seen in those localities. If you go to Represent Women's website, and I think it's their solutions tab, election reform, and they've done these studies of mayoral elections and like city council elections. And what they found is when ranked choice voting is implemented and used, the candidates who win are more reflective of their community. So if you start to reach gender parity, you get candidates that are more diverse. So people are more likely to run. You know, sometimes maybe women may go, oh, I don't want to get involved in that. Politics is nasty and mean. Well, you know, or like in a small rural area where I live, like I respect my board of supervisor. I really like her. I may want to represent the people. Right now, under a plurality system, I'm probably not going to challenge my neighbor. But, you know, if we had ranked choice voting, maybe I'd feel a little bit better about it, you know? So there, it changes the incentives, and it, you know, it changes the way the candidates have to play the game.
So I have
We
a
have
question.
someone that said, we have someone that says that in Ireland, they use this system of voting. Like they watch this documentary on how it rolls out. What she mentions is that it's hard work for counting. Do you find that if that system is in place, it's going to take longer to calculate the votes?
I mean, if it's an area where you have to hand count or something, it might, may not, you know, we're so used to instant, right? Like right now we need the results at by 8 p.m. or by midnight, the night of the election. But there's software that tabulates it. There's, you know, most modern election equipment is capable of tabulating ranked choice voting. So there may have been some recent examples where it took a little bit longer, but it's not, you know, it might have to do more with the certification at the state level. Like maybe in those places it wasn't in place yet. Maybe the processes weren't, you know, tweaked out yet. But otherwise, there's a lot of, like I said, most of the equipment that is new is going to be able to do this. And like for Virginia, we found there was a 2018 study done by Ranked Choice Voting Resource Center that said, you know, all but like 17 localities had capable equipment. And sometimes it's just a matter of going to the vendor and saying, can you enable this feature? And the manufacturers and the companies are working to improve that further as we speak.
I have a question, Elizabeth. How would you rate the acceptance of the whole idea of ranked choice voting in Virginia? What type of feedback and input have you been receiving?
So that's my favorite part. Like when we, you know, pre-COVID, we would do some informational event and we would talk about it and share it. And people are like, well, yeah, that makes sense. That is easy. We rank things every day. It's when we start talking about people in power, elected officials or election officials, that they start coming up with excuses. The people won't be able to understand it. I'm the people. I'm sitting right in front of you as a constituent. I understand it. People can't fill out ballots as is. Like, okay, well, where it's been implemented, we've seen that the error rate is pretty much the same. People either over bubble or under bubble. They just do. And it's not at a higher rate with ranked choice voting. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Oh, you were saying like, how do people receive it? They receive it really well.
How's it being received overall?
Overall, the population, the voters, they get it, and they're like, yeah, that makes sense. We do that every day. And what's we've seen the last year and a half, 2 years, is that ranked choice voting or instant runoff is an awesome solution for voting during COVID and a pandemic. So both Republican Party and Democratic Party in Virginia has used it over the last couple of years in conventions. And so that they're doing their work for the parties are doing our work for us at this point. They're exposing more people to ranked choice voting, and we're so excited about that, because now we can go to the state legislator and we can say, hey, you used this in your convention 3 months ago. Like, it worked for them, it worked then. So we're excited about that. We're excited to see more parties using it for more offices, and to see where it goes from there.
So how does this change how legislatures, if at all, legislate though? Because even getting a better legislator there doesn't necessarily help us unless we get improved actual legislation. And so I have two questions. First, how does this change how they legislate? And one of the things that our group and our viewers are very interested in is starting to get a legislator that looks more like America, or in the case of Virginia, looks more like Virginia. Half of America is female, half of Virginia is female. We are no longer going to be a white majority nation. We should have legislative bodies that look like the people. Do you think this would help that? And if so, how? And how does this change how people legislate?
Yeah, it will. That's, the study on that I mentioned by Represent Women shows that on the local level, and hopefully that just translates to other offices as well. A good recent example of how it will change legislators and what they do in office is I think Lisa Murkowski in Alaska, because she they're not going to be so afraid of being primaried now for going against whatever party leader's agenda may be. So they can speak out, or they can work across the aisle, and they're not, who cares if there's primary opponents? We have ranked choice voting. If they've done their job well, they'll be ranked 1 or 2, and likely be elected again. So she had, I think she spoke out against Trump, and she wasn't afraid to do that, because the next election is going to be a ranked choice voting election.
One of our viewers, I don't know if she's still on, and this is a question about Utah. I don't know if it's something that you can answer or not, but she says, but Mike Lee is a senator from Utah. Was that a result of ranked choice voting?
It's not statewide yet in Utah. So I think in Utah, it's only at the local level. So I don't think he would have been any kind of election that would have affected what he is.
Okay. So it doesn't have to, ranked choice voting doesn't have to be for every office when it's implemented. It could just be for certain positions, certain, offices that are being, having elections for.
Yeah, so our very first bill in Virginia in 2017 looked like Maine's bill. It was from the bottom to the top, and it was such a new, not that it's a new idea, it's in Robert's Rules of Order, but it was unconventional idea, and it was too big, too fast, and it died quickly in subcommittee. So that's when we, over the next couple sessions, pared back the bill a little bit, and like I said earlier, made it a little bit more palatable. So we'll just keep it to Board of Supervisors and town councils, and we'll let localities opt in if they want to. But some of the best examples for advocacy are congressional, or like right now in Virginia, our governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general races, because they're wide field of candidates. So it's a good opportunity to talk about it, because we see that example of, wow, look at all these great people running, but that one candidate might win with 20% instead of, and 80% of the people that won't be their first choice.
I'm going to ask a really maybe off the wall question, but I had never heard of ranked choice voting in my civics classes. And granted, I graduated in what my children would refer to as the 1800s. But is this something where is this being included in high school civics classes? And is this something where we as parents, because we're all the women, the regular hosts here, we're all parents of actually high school students. Is this something where you think we need to start educating high school students, not pro or con, but at least what this is and how it works, because we spend a lot of time learning a lot of civics that's honestly taught by often people who should not be teaching civics, and that's why we're in the mess we're in. But should this start to be included in textbooks, and is this something we should start pushing for either additional things into the curriculum? Because 18-year-olds who are high school seniors, they vote, and we need them to be able to understand this. And I certainly hadn't heard of this in high school.
Yeah, I think they can even vote at 17, or at least register to vote at 17, right? Yeah, I hadn't heard about it until my early 30s. When I became involved in minor party politics, and it was an idea that was coming from there, from our party. So I'm glad to see that it's catching on with those in the know. But I would say that I don't remember it being taught in any of my civics classes, but that it is used in a lot of universities. So like University of Virginia has used it in their student government association for I don't know how many years. And FairVote National just put out a newsletter yesterday, and it said exactly how many universities use it. And I feel like it was like 183 or something, but it's been used for, I don't know, Ireland's used it for a long time. Australia's used it for a long time. I mean, like scores of years, not just in the last decade. And New York City, I think even Cincinnati, they used it 100 years ago. So it's not a new idea. It's just maybe a re-emerging idea, but that is definitely a solution to the way that politics has played out over the years.
I know we have people from like various different states, and some are even out of the country, but can you tell me, as far as Virginia is concerned, since that's the area where you work, where are we with ranked choice voting? Are we using it in any of our elections that you're aware of on the local, state level? And that's the first part of my question. And the second part is, what is it that you guys are trying to do as far as 2022, or you said even November? Let's talk about what's upcoming, and what are you trying to do in terms of implementing this?
Absolutely. So what the bill that currently in effect does is says that town councils and board of supervisors can implement. And there was one bill for Arlington County that was not a delayed enactment. So they could have done that right now in Arlington County if they wanted to. But the broader bill that says any locality in Virginia could do this goes into effect July 1st of this year. So right now, what we're doing is we're building volunteer teams, regional volunteer teams, and having weekly Sunday volunteer meetings. And we're asking our volunteers there to go to their town councils and their board of supervisors and talk to them about ranked choice voting, to host informational events, and write letters of the editor to the editor, their newspapers, and just start getting the word out and educating people, their elected officials. And then goals that we have, we would probably support Bill's next General Assembly for expansion to other offices. Absolutely.
Okay, so do you have, how do we connect with you? Because I don't know, I'm thinking this might help with a couple of elections we got coming up in this area, right, Vanessa?
David LaRock, we're looking at you.
Yeah, hard and heavy, and not in a good way. How do we take and connect the information you just gave 2 seconds ago? How do we connect with you and to get that accomplished? Like, if we want to do something in our area, and this can go for anybody in whatever area you're in, whatever state you're in, I think what she's going to tell us, you can actually apply that to a fair vote in your area or contact the national office. Is that right?
Yeah,
If
they
somebody
have a
wanted to
page.
do this in another state. So
Yeah,
we're
they have
just
a
going to deal with Virginia. How do we connect with you? And do you have the tools available for us to write letters or postcards or phone calls or email our town council? Like what language should we say, or is that something we have to develop on our own?
No, we actually have a volunteer resource, Google Drive, and we have examples of just about everything you need. And if you don't see exactly what you're looking for, I'm happy to craft something with you. If you go to our website, fairvotevirginia.org, and to events, you can RSVP for our Sunday meetings. And once you do that, or send us an email, you'll see our local efforts tab. Some of those regions have a specific person to email. That's a volunteer regional coordinator, basically. So you can email them, or if your region isn't listed, we can add you to the list of another region, and we can get you a link to the Google Drive.
So the meetings, sorry, Mary.
No, go ahead.
So the meetings you have on Sunday, what are the premise of those meetings? What's the premise of those meetings?
Yeah, so Sundays at 5 p.m., those are volunteer organizing meetings and trainings. So we get together, we give each other updates. If there's a training topic that anybody wants to go through, we do that. We have regional action plans that our coordinators put together. They say, we've given an example of it, and then you can take that and tailor it to your region and see what makes sense.
And this doesn't matter whether you're a Democrat or a Republican or Green Party or Libertarian or Independent or a Pastafarian.
Right. We are a nonpartisan organization. So our founding members were literally from across all the parties you've heard of and some others and independents. Our board members currently are the same, all different political leanings.
Do you guys have a presence in Loudoun County, in Western Fairfax County?
We do. Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So if you go to our local efforts tab, yes.
So you mentioned that one of the objections that people would have to this is that it's hard to count. But other than that, if I were to have a conversation with somebody and they said ranked choice voting is not as good as what we have now, what would they say was the reason? And how would we counter that argument? What would be that? How would we have that discussion? Because if we're going to advocate for this, I would want to understand what the objections are, because some of them may in fact be legitimate, and be able to understand how to have that conversation in a smart way.
So there's a great website called rcfax.com, I think, rcvfax.com. And it's really good at countering some of the common arguments. But the ones that we've come across mostly have not really come from the voters. It's come from, the electeds. And it mostly, the two main ones we hear is it's complicated and voters won't understand it. We've also heard I think something came from some advocates out of Florida that said it actually voters of color or low information voters are less likely to understand it or get elected. And we're not really sure where that came from, because we have information and studies that to the counter.
Oh, we understand what they meant.
So, okay. So, I mean, those are the things that we've heard the most. And that was the most recent one that we heard, because our folks in Florida was like, I wish I'd had that spreadsheet that you just, or these studies that you just presented on, whatever call we were on, because it would have been the information they needed to counter, because Florida's efforts lost just narrowly. They almost got it there,
And that's the data that I would want to see is, are we seeing more women and more people of color who represent the area that they're in? If you're in a more diverse area, are we seeing more diverse candidates elected using this method versus, and also does this get rid of Mitch McConnell? But understanding that,
and a few others.
Yeah, we got a list, but
we also need term limits.
Well, Mitch McConnell would tell you
Layers.
that we have term limits, and they're called elections, and that's
Right,
another
right.
entire discussion. But I would like to see, I'd like to understand the data that whether this actually works in getting us, you know, a more representative, and then how we legislate changes. Do we get more done, more effective? Because right now we've got a lot of gridlock. And if you know, I like the theory that says that politics is can I do this? A horseshoe. And at the far ends of both the left and the right are the crazy people. And it seems like we got a lot of crazy people coming in on the right. And I don't know what the right is doing to make that happen, but that's not good for the right either.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Mitch McConnell does not take pride in having MGT up there doing her thing.
That's from plurality. No, nobody's winning with majorities. Well, except for Georgia. You know, they have runoffs. And you say that runoffs.
She's from Georgia, so I don't understand how that happened. I don't.
Yeah, you're right.
But I don't know if are there any questions in the chat? I don't see any questions, any more questions or comments in the chat. And I know that you need to get to another event. So I want to be respectful in giving you that time. You ladies can actually hang on for a moment, because we might want to just get into the topic of November elections and 2022 for like 5 minutes. But in closing for you in FairVote, Virginia, is there anything, any important information that you want to be able to speak out that you haven't spoken of already?
I mean, just get involved wherever you are, you know, if you feel like this is the reform that can make some significant changes, you can go to the FairVote National website, and they'll link you to local organizations advocating for ranked choice voting. We need, I feel like we're snowballing, so we're getting there. Like, my Google alerts are set to send me articles about ranked choice voting and instant runoff voting, and every day there's something in there. Whereas, you know, a few years ago, it was rare that anybody was writing about it. So we're getting to this tipping point, and the more the merrier.
Okay. And I think what's important, one thing that you shared, and it's going to be something I go back to in some of the chats that I had with people who really kind of complained about ranked choice voting. It's not every election. So some people may be thinking that certain candidates are getting in under ranked choice voting, and they're not, because it's not structured for it's not one for all. It's however it's sliced out.
Right.
So that's interesting. So that's going to lead me back to a previous conversation I had with someone else. That's good information, but thank you so much. Oh, ladies, did you have anything else? Vanessa, Jamie?
I don't. I already joined your session for Sunday night. I'll be sitting in, listening and learning. Yep. And then I'm going to pass on what I learned. I'm not going to keep it to myself.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. I learned a lot.
Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
So that was very interesting, I found. Ladies, I think that's how we're going to get rid of a couple people.
Hey, and you know I am down for that.
I will be on Sunday night too.
I'll be interested to see how this, I mean, right now, in February 2019, we had one party rule in 49 state legislatures. And I think that reflects both this process and also gerrymandering. So I will be interested to see how this would, if this is a way to sort of counteract the extreme effects of gerrymandering, so that we actually have legislators who have to respond to all of their constituents, not just their own party. And if we can then get things done in the legislature.
So one key thing that Elizabeth said, and I talked about this on Buta's show this morning, is that people are sometimes, well, most of us are adverse to change, first of all. I'm not, most of us are. And when you're adverse to change and something like ranked choice voting comes along, I mean, one of my good friends who's a registered Republican, she was probably the first person that mentioned it to me. She's like, we need to take a look at this. And so if you don't know where to start with education. Connect yourself to someone or something, just like I just signed up for their training on Sunday. And I'm going to be in there and I'm going to be taking notes. And I want to learn more about ranked choice. That's what we should be doing. We should not be sitting out here uneducated and then getting on Facebook talking about what's wrong with everything.
Right.
Take the time to educate yourself, and then you can speak intelligently about any topic. Just start where you are. That's what she said. That was important. That's what I said this morning. I know change is hard. It's tough. But, we got to put our big boy drawers and our big girl panties on and get ready for 2022. This isn't a joke.
Nope.
We have white supremacists running for public office right now in Loudoun
County.
So if y'all are not paying attention, I don't know what to tell you.
I think that I know I will be on Sunday. I wrote it down so I can make sure that as soon as I log off here, I'll be signing up too. So, we could talk about all of these people in Loudoun County if we want to, but unless we take action, change will never happen. And this is not only for, I don't want to lose everybody and think that we're just talking about Virginia and Loudoun County. What Elizabeth spoke of is cross America, okay? She represents FairVote Virginia, but there is a FairVote.com. She is representing a chapter of a large organization. So wherever you are, in whatever state you are, you can connect with FairVote.com and get connected with a chapter in your area. And maybe you're a forerunner. Maybe you'll start that chapter. How about that?
And to your point, I think we cannot overestimate the importance of midterm elections coming up. Historically, what generally happens when one party takes the House and the Senate and the presidency, there's a backlash at midterms. All the good things that we're doing right now, getting COVID under control, getting things back to normal, passing a real infrastructure for our 1950s crumbling infrastructure, everything that is being done right now is at risk. If you read through the far right websites, I actually read something today that said Joe Biden is to the left of Lenin. Yeah, he's a moderate. He is so moderate. He's so he's like your in the middle grandpa who's not really going to go to the far to the left or far to the right on anything. But if you look at what's going on right now, it is in jeopardy. We have this virus on the run. It's not over yet. It is not over yet, but it looks like in just a matter of weeks, we should be able to vaccinate all of our teenagers. We could get close to herd immunity. We all want to get vaccinated. Also keep in mind, if you get vaccinated, even if you're not at risk and you're not at risk of spreading it to someone else, you are at risk of it mutating inside your body without you knowing it. You could be the person who creates the next strand without that vaccine. So please get vaccinated, encourage everyone you can to get vaccinated. But we're putting needles in arms every day at just tremendous rates. We are so close, but we could lose this all at midterms.
And I just want to add that those of us that are paying attention to the COVID numbers, folks, they're not getting better. They're actually getting worse. Okay, yes, there are a lot of needles going in arms. I get my second dose this week, but I'm seeing memes all over the internet with people celebrating and talking about they're going to mimosa brunch. You don't need to be going to nobody's mimosa brunch because you got a second shot.
Do it on Zoom. You can have your mimosas on Zoom.
What you want to do is pay attention to these numbers every day.
Right.
That's what you want to be doing. Okay. Don't start celebrating, folks.
Not yet.
Don't have a false sense of security about this plague. It's a plague.
It's a plague. I said that from day one.
So I don't want to see any more memes talking about we meeting down there for brunch with our sundresses on. Okay.
Do it online. You don't have to worry about drinking and driving.
Instead, throw your mimosa brunch on Google Meet, not even Zoom, Google Meet.
I like Zoom.
And have fun, but pay attention, right? When I get my second shot next week, I'm going to stay in for 2 weeks after that.
I think the other thing with the shot is I know there's a lot of people are really nervous around the Johnson & Johnson shot, which was paused and is now back on the market. Yes, there is an infinitesimally small risk of a blood clot. That condition is completely survivable if you go to the doctor. Completely survivable and treatable. And I will say this, I'm someone with a history of blood clots. I got that vaccine. I got my vaccine before the Johnson & Johnson was approved. So I'm not saying I got that vaccine. I had the Pfizer. That's the one they gave me. I showed up, they stuck it in my arm and I was grateful for it. But we all hear those concerns about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine and people are nervous, but even if you are the 1 in a million people who gets that condition, it is completely survivable. If you go see your doctor, they can treat it. There were unfortunately a few people it hits women who passed away, and that is tragic and awful. None of us want to downplay how horrible that is, but it's because of lack of medical attention. So we want to make sure that people understand that these vaccines are safe, and they're so much safer than COVID, which also causes blood clots. As a clotter, I can tell you that was my big fear. I had to have a plan with my hematologist in place for when I was going to go to the ER, that I had to call him on his cell phone and all of this. So if you're already at risk for clots, you should be far more afraid of COVID.
And the other thing, I think Mary said this, or Jamie, you might have said it, but between now and 2024, it is not the time for a bunch of talking. It's time for action. Okay. I don't do a bunch of talking because I probably got adult onset ADHD. I don't like a lot of talking. I'm a believer in action, actionable steps to get us there. Today started early voting for the governor's race in Virginia. Did y'all know that? Okay, let's get out there and early vote, folks.
And let's keep in mind too,
talking about it and be about it. This isn't a joke. Our democracy is still under attack. Do y'all think 45 has been quiet?
Well, we only have the Senate because we have the vice presidential vote, and we squeaked by with the presidency. If it were not for Stacey Abrams, we would have 4 more years of Trump. We came that close.
That close.
Also, another big shout out. Thank you, Philly. But they effed around and found out. But
we need to continue this fight. We don't need to stop. We don't need to stop and start going shopping at the mall. Stay out of the mall. Stay at your voting place. Right? Do you know where your polling place is? Google it.
And look at the laws
state voting is critical.
State and local laws that are meant for voter suppression. There's a great clip of Stacey Abrams explaining exactly not only how, but who those laws are meant to suppress. And we know what that language means. When people say urban Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry, Mary. One last thing. I want to address the 18-year-olds. 18-year-olds. You're going to be voting this year. Mm-hmm. Okay. Don't listen to anybody else but your gut and your heart about who you want to vote for. Don't let your parents influence you.
Or your boomer grandparents, especially not your boomer grandparents.
Especially not the boomers. Okay?
Unless they're bloomers. Like my mom and dad are bloomers.
We're waiting for a lot of them to die off. Okay? Do your own research, 18-year-olds. You guys were born with Google in your cribs. Use it. Please.
Those tax cuts that President Trump gave your parents and your grandparents, who's paying for them?
You are.
And your children that you don't have yet are paying for it.
And might not be able to afford to have. So, or might not, the planet might not be safe for you to really feel like you can have them if we continue climate change. Seattle just had I think what was the warmest April on record. It was awesome. I had a great time. I was in a bikini in Seattle in April, but this is not what we're looking for.
I just want to say, Jane Bray said, she said it's fairvote.org, and she just had to go looking for it. She wants to say she thanks us for having this discussion. It's a breath of fresh air to have intelligent women discussing politics. And Beth Ray says, good point, in early voting, Vanessa will share loudly. So, you know, we have to continue talking about this, and we will continue talking about this, probably more now that we've had a hiatus, because we needed a break, people. I'm just going to be honest. I have taken a hard pause on politics. So I was really excited to kick off, you know, politics again with FairVote Virginia. And I think it was awesome of Elizabeth to take time for us, and heading off to an event that she had to get to tonight. So I will be posting information in the group, Suburban Women for American Democracy. I will be posting in that group information for fairvote.org. We can do it by state, whatever, but I think we will be a sounding board for FairVote Virginia, particularly for these 2022 elections coming up. So if you're complaining or don't like the people that are running for office, this may be a good way of hearing everybody's vote and being able to vote for more than one person, because I know for a fact that there were times that particularly when they were doing, you know, when they were kind of trying to minimize the candidates, so they had their primary elections, I would have loved to vote for more than one person. I would have loved to do that, because sometimes the person that I voted for didn't win, and it was nobody that I would have ever put in office, but you know, it would have helped to know that I was able to contribute my voice to people who I thought were qualified. Because I've seen too many people in elections drop out of races that should have never dropped out. They were darn good candidates.
I think we saw that with Vice President Harris too. One of the things that the far right likes to refer to her as is 2% Harris, because she only got 2% in the primary. I did not vote for her in the primary. She was my second choice.
Exactly.
She was probably like everybody's second choice.
Everybody's.
I don't care if you voted for Biden or Warren or whoever, she was your second choice. And there's something really valuable about getting the person we can agree on the most, instead of just the person who had the largest base. And I think when we see these people with the largest base, that's when you get that Lauren gun-toting Barbie out there who didn't even finish high school. And there's nothing wrong with not finishing high school if you actually have a foundational understanding of civics and government. She does not. So we need to do better. We want our legislatures to at least have passed high school civics. I'm just throwing that out there as a bar. I know that bar is on the floor, but the Republicans are somehow electing people who can limbo under that. and we need to do better. If we want to pass laws that make sense for America and improve our country for our kids, we need to have legislatures who are the best of us, not the worst of us.
So what's really happening, Jamie, let's keep it real, is that America applauds mediocrity, and it applauds subpar mediocre people. We don't need mediocre in this country anymore. So if you can't graduate high school.
It also, Vanessa, you have to admit too, it also passes people on who you know. I'm in office, so I'm gonna get you so that together we could do this. And that's how come stuff don't get done.
And I think you see this at local elections too. For anybody in Loudoun County, stay on top of your school board and making sure that we get a superintendent who actually supports things like diversity, equity, and inclusion. These things matter. Those local elections really matter. Know who your school board member is and make sure that you're in contact with them.
Yeah, just
There's
don't settle for a school board superintendent like we did the last time.
Yeah, Fox News is all over school boards here in Loudoun County. Beaverton, Oregon is one that's getting a lot of national attention. And I can tell you firsthand, having been in that news, what they're saying is actually not true. They're printing lies, and it is set up to undermine initiatives that create a more inclusive, fair workforce ultimately. Because what we do at the schools drives the workforce we get later. If we want to be able to be internationally competitive as a country, if we want to be prepared against our near-peer competitors and our near-peer adversaries from a national security perspective, we need to have a population that is educated and either vocationally ready or ready for college. And this is a threat to it. It really, really is. And so, don't be looking at Fox News, Daily Signal, Daily Wire. They have this base that is all riled up around some school board elections. Get involved in your school board election. Make sure you get somebody who is willing to stand up for the right things for our students.
Students
and oh, by the way, Loudoun County is looking for people to run for school board, by the way. Just saying.
Although we're not recalling the one we've got as much as they like to think we are.
And something you just said, Jamie, is critical as well, is all politics is local, people. All politics is local. If you don't know who the mayor is, if you don't know who the school board is, if you don't know who the board of supervisors is, if you don't know who your postmaster general is, you need to know. Got to know the man.
Homework assignment. Why don't you give that to the people for a homework assignment?
Yeah, that's a homework assignment. I need all of you, wherever you live, to find out who the mayor is, who the town council is, who the city councilors are. I need you to find out who your postmaster general is. I need you to find out who your sheriff is. I need you to find out who your police chief is. Okay? And write all their names down and have them ready. I need you to know who your congressional representative is, House and Senate. And then you need to know their voting record. Just don't believe everything that they say. Go get your data. You got the queen of data. You got the queen of data on the screen right now. Ask her.
Yeah, if you guys need statistics on anything, you post it in the group, in the Blue Waves Conversation group. I will answer your questions the next week. It is out there. We have all this information. There are great websites with voting records. I will pull those up. But we also, if you want to view it through a certain lens or within the context of the socioeconomic things that we have going on, we can do that as well, because America is changing. And some of these changes are for the better and some are not. And we need to make sure that we have legislators who are actually operating in this century. And we have people who have been in Congress for a long time who are still doing good. I know people have mixed feelings about Nancy Pelosi, but they often forget that she was, I'm gonna swear, she was a badass champion when the AIDS epidemic hit. She saved a lot of lives. That woman is made of steel. Is she the right person to keep legislating? Have somebody who lived in her district in California? At the time when I lived there, 20 years ago, I think she was. Is she still now? That's up to the people of California, but you need to know what her voting record is now. Kamala Harris gets hit on both sides. On the one side, they think she's too pro law enforcement. She votes to the left of Bernie in the Senate. But she got criticized for not being a real progressive. So we need to actually have data on people's voting records.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's a Google search away to find out somebody's voting record. I'm a political geek. I order copies of bills, okay? And I read them. All right. You don't have to be like me, but you got to find out your own information, folks. Right.
And not from Fox News and not from, or another website that is not going to give you a really good balanced summary of what that bill means. If you don't feel comfortable reading the bill, go to some place. NPR is an excellent organization in the middle. Mm-hmm. Find somebody who's going to give you an unbiased interpretation of what this bill means and what the externalities or unintended consequences could be of this bill. Right now, we're looking at Biden's tax increase, for example. Somebody said to me, well, you know, what if you have a poor person who's about to inherit $1 million home? Well, you know, if their parents have millions of dollars in that house, why are they still that poor? I'm throwing that out there. And they probably need healthcare and childcare more now than they need to wait for that inheritance later.
And here's one more thing. Oh God, I just forgot. I knew that was going to happen. It was good though.
Well, I will add my thing while you're thinking, which is, I do want to say, if you if you got a stimulus check, your income tax is not going up under Biden's tax plan. I see a lot of people who were waiting for that stimulus check and are now concerned about Biden's tax plan. You do not make enough money that you're not making $400,000 a year. You're not making millions of dollars a year. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and be CEO of Walmart. That's not going to happen. Even most people who have too much money for a stimulus check are not going to be impacted by this tax plan's income component. So stop worrying about it. Let's help America get health care and childcare so that we can get women back into the workforce when this pandemic is over. This is a she session and we need this desperately.
And I just remember what I wanted to say, and I find myself saying this a whole lot, and I'm going to keep saying it. So here it goes. Everything is political. Everything. So if I hear one more person say, I'm not into politics. Oh, yes, you are. Everything is political. Where you shop, where you go to the grocery store, where you buy your car, where you get your dog washed, where you buy your bananas. Everything is political. So get this idea out of your head that you're not in the politics, because every day you step out of your house is political.
Every day.
And if you think that you don't have to be political, you need to step back and figure out how much privilege it is that nothing that's going on with these bills impacts you and your family.
They do every day.
If you've never had the Supreme Court decide what rights you're entitled to, you have privilege. And even we as women all had the courts have to be involved in a lot of our rights. So let's not forget that. All the rights that have been given to us can be taken away.
Absolutely. If you're not paying attention, Yeah.
If you're not. So I'm not going to say what I'm going to say because that's going to take us off topic and that's going to go a whole nother direction. So I'm not going to say it. I'll talk about that with y'all afterwards. But I want to say this. I really do appreciate this conversation tonight. And from the comments to on and off screen, what I want to suggest for you, Jamie and Vanessa, if you two can do 2 separate posts in the group when you have a moment, Vanessa, you got to give that homework. Give that homework assignment.
That's good homework. Yeah, that's some good homework. I said, that's some good homework, isn't it?
Oh God, I'm going to do it. And I
Yeah.
think I have most of the answers, but I didn't know who the Postmaster General. I don't. So give that homework assignment in the group and have them comment in the comments their homework assignment answer.
Okay.
So that way everybody will have that information and they can find it in one place. If you don't mind doing that when you have a chance, I'd appreciate it.
And by the way, Jamie, and I don't know if Mary wants to do this because Mary's already on there, but Jamie, we need to start our room on Clubhouse immediately and talk about this stuff right here. This is all we need to be talking about for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Midterms are coming and they matter.
There are no other topics right now. There are no other topics,
yeah.
but this.
They're not. And that's, well, yeah.
If you talk to any change management professional, even after we pass a bill or you make a change in your corporation or in your family or a fitness plan, anything you do takes a long time for it to take hold and be meaningful and show results. If we lose midterms, everything that we gained by winning in 2020 could be lost. It's put at risk. We need to focus on 2022 harder. What's that? Higher, faster, further, baby. We need to go harder in 2022 to make sure that we can actually do the things that the country needs.
Oh, and Jamie, if you could put up a post, just letting people know that if they need like information with stats or whatever, or they're just trying to find some information, maybe they can't find it, because we do have, in our group, we do have some people who are not, and I've had them reach out to me that they're not internet savvy as much because they're older, different things like that. We want to help women. The goal for me moving forward as it's the same as it's always been since that first conversation on the phone with you, Vanessa, back in August, is that we're women focused. We invite men into the group to support us. So anybody can join the group, but we've got to educate women because it's not level. The playing field is not level.
We're half the population in a tiny proportion of our Congress.
So if you can post something to that effect to kind of help women, I think it'll be, they'll feel more comfortable reaching out to you if they know that they can.
Yeah, whatever you need, I will find it and I will cite my sources and they will be good ones.
Anybody can reach out to me. Absolutely. I think everybody who knows me in the community and in the region, they know they can reach out to me anytime. I will be happy to answer any questions or share any resource. So do it, people.
Yep. And so thank you for watching. We will be back again. Kim wasn't able to be with us tonight, but she really wanted to be here for this one. But she had some things that came up business-wise, but she will be back with us on next week. If there are any comments or anything that you had watching the show tonight, that you had any questions on that we didn't cover, please feel free to put it in the comments in the chat. Always reach out to me if there's a show topic that you feel we need to cover. But for right now, we just want to say goodbye. Have a great night and enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Good night, everybody.
Bye, everybody.